Now let's look at how you can write a complication in your narrative. So the complication comes after your orientation, so you've introduced the characters and the setting and you've established your point of view. So now what you have to do is introduce the problem or the conflict. Think about a reasonable conflict or problem that could occur that affects the character's life. So it could be an accident, a test or a competition, maybe they've lost something. So introduce that and then show the reader the events that occur as a result of the problem. So the character gets into trouble, they get nervous, they're at risk, maybe they're running late. So unfold those events. But as you're describing the events, don't just tell the reader what happens. Don't let it just be an account or a summary. Rather, show the reader by giving descriptive details and using dialogue. Let the reader do a little bit of work. Build the action or the events so that they reach a high point or a climax. Let's have a look at an example of a complication. This is taken from a short story called The Breadwinner. As she prepared the meal, the woman from time to time looked contemptuously at her husband. He ignored her, raising his eyebrows, humming, or tapping his teeth now and then with his fingernails, making a pretense of being profoundly bored. Right, so you can see that the relationship between the husband and wife is not a very positive one. In fact, the woman's looking at her husband contemptuously. So that means she can't stand him. She really doesn't like her husband. He is very dismissive of his wife. He ignored her. He raises his eyebrows, humming. So that would really irritate her. So you can see that that's the problem. Then we actually find out a little bit more about what's causing this really tense relationship between them. "You'll keep your hands off the money," said the woman, obviously repeating something that she'd already said several times before. "I know what'll happen to it if you get hold of it. He'll give it to me. It'll pay the rent and buy us a bit of food and not go into the till at the nearest public house." Now, this dialogue is so important because look at how it advances the plot. So from the dialogue, we realise that this has happened before, this situation. We also know that it's about the fact that the son, when he comes home, the father takes his wages, his money. And that really annoys her. And she's come to a point where she's not going to let it happen anymore. We also find out what he spends the money on. He goes to the pub, so obviously it goes on alcohol. Following this, the man gets really angry, so the tension increases. "You shut your mouth," said the man quietly. "I'll not shut my mouth," cried the woman in a quick burst of anger. "Why should I shut my mouth?" So here, the dialogue really enhances the suspense and the tension. She's angry at him and she's fighting back. And then at the end, the man says, again leisurely poking the fire, so still very dismissive, "We'll see about that," said the man, which is in a very threatening tone. So see how we can see that tension building up. So in this complication, the problem is quite evident, the tension is very evident, but we read between the lines. It's the dialogue that is really important in this complication.